Hey guys, it's Yuta. Education is a great thing. So here I am with another educational video for you guys. Adult education, that is. Just like any other languages, we don't always use direct terms when we talk about sexual things. Today, we're gonna learn what to say when you want to get busy, make love, and have sexy time. Suru, to do. If you wanna say to have sex directly in Japanese, you can say seksu suru or ecchi suru, which is more colloquial and probably a bit more common. But if you don't wanna be direct, which many Japanese people don't, you can actually just say suru, which just means to do. And depending on the context, it means to have sex. She said shio, which is a contraction of shio, which is an inflection of suru. And you can see a direct translation totally works in English too. But did you notice that Japanese verbs change their forms to express different ideas? If you want to learn useful expressions like the ones in this video, you need to learn how words change. So if you want to learn basic Japanese with me, I will teach you the kind of Japanese the real-life Japanese people today actually speak. So click the link in the description and subscribe. But anyway, suru is a very useful word. So you can even say something like kuchi de suru, to do with your mouth, te de suru, to do with your hand. Very useful. Yaru, to do. So yaru is a pretty colloquial word, and compared to suru, it sounds a bit more vulgar in my opinion.
じゃあ俺の家には無償で止めろって話か。
ああ、やらせてあげるから止めて。
Yarasete is the te form of yaraseru, which is the causative form of yaru. Itasu, to do. If you can go casual, you can also go polite. And itasu is a very polite version of suru, to do. For example, you can say, 異種族レビュアーズは異種族同士が致すアニメだ。Interspecies Reviewers is an anime where different species do it with each other. Itasu is excessively polite, so it sounds quite humorous. Daku, to hold. So daku means to hold as in to hold someone. This one sounds a bit old-fashioned to me, but I think you still hear a lot in a song, for example. Or in an anime.
僕は一回抱いた女の子は忘れないよ。
He said daita, which is the past form of daku, to hold. Just like suru, to do, you can totally use this word without having sexual connotations, so it really depends on the context. Neru, to sleep. This one totally works in English too, because you can say to sleep with somebody. But in Japanese, I think this expression is a bit more literary than conversational. Makoto は複数のクラスメートと寝た。Makoto slept with multiple classmates. But if you hear something like 一緒に寝る, to sleep together, it actually literally means to sleep together. So it can be a bit confusing if you don't know how to use this word properly. 一夜を共にする, to spend the night together. This one doesn't need any explanation because it totally works in English too. You can say, 二人は一夜を共にした. The two spent the night together. 体を重ねる, to put one's body on top of the other. I actually don't really know how to say this in English. 体を重ねる is literally, so this is your body and this is the other person's body. But, of course, it is not what it actually means. This expression is also kind of literary, so you might read it in a novel or you might hear it in an anime.
そんな怖い顔しないでよ。僕たち体を重ね合った仲だろ。
He said, 体を重ね合った。体の関係になる。体の関係を持つ。To have physical relations. Again, I think this makes sense in English too. You can say, 夏男とルイは第1話で体の関係を持った。Natsuo and Rui had physical relations in the first episode. In a similar way, you can also say 男女の関係になる to become man and woman, or you can simply say 関係を持つ to have relations. You can say 誠は乙女と何度も関係を持った。誠 and 乙女 had relations many times. 愛し合う to love each other. Again, this one doesn't need explanations. You can say 京子と泉は京子の部屋で愛し合った。京子 and Izumi loved each other in Kyoko's room. ゲットする to get. I think Pokemon actually popularized this expression because they always say ゲットだぜ. But you can also say 誠は琴の葉をゲットできなかった。誠 couldn't get 琴の葉. This one isn't really a nice expression. It sounds a bit like objectifying because people are not Pokemon. 一線を越える to cross the line. This one isn't necessarily inherently sexual, but if you are talking about men and women and if you say 一線を越える, it is sexual. You can say 誠は世界と一線を越えた. Makoto crossed the line with 世界. School days gives me so many examples. Beddo in, bed in. This one is what we call Japanese English because you don't say bed in English. It means to go to bed, but not as in to sleep, but as in to lie in bed. So you know what it implies. You can say, 誠は乙女とベッドインした。誠 went to bed with 乙女。優しくする to be gentle. This one is quite interesting because I don't think it's super common. It's very indirect and context dependent. I wanted to include this because of this scene from Nisemonogatari.
あんな男にいろいろ言いたい放題言われちゃって今だってひどく傷ついているわ。だから今夜は私に優しくしなさい。
She said, 優しくしなさい which means be gentle. I think many Japanese people who watched this scene thought, does it mean what I think it means? Because it's very euphemistic. I've actually seen Japanese people ask that question online. This scene is easy to overlook, but it's pretty significant considering the characters' backgrounds. So we've seen some expressions for having sex, but we obviously have euphemisms for other sexual words. For example, genitals. And the most common word is probably asoko, that place. You can use this for both male and female genitals. You guys have watched a lot of regular Japanese porn, so you guys are familiar with モザイクのかかったあそこ pixelated that place. There's also a word specifically for the penis, which is 息子, which literally means son, as in father and son. A lot of guys use this word when they talk about their penis. So if you say something like 息子が大きくなった My son grew bigger. It can mean very different things in different contexts. Now for the female genital area, you might come across デリケートゾーン which literally means delicate zone, but in actual English, I think it's gonna be something like sensitive area. But this one, they actually don't really use it in a sexual context. They often use it for female products, for example. And speaking of female products, we also have lots of euphemisms for periods. A direct word would be 生理 or 月経, but you rarely actually hear these words from Japanese people. You might hear something like 女の子の日, Girls' Day. Now if I say Girls' Day, it sounds like girls gonna get a discount or something, but that's not what it means.
女の子の日ですか？
ほぼ確定だろ。
ああ、定期的に来るあれか。
They are using 女の子の日. But in conversation, I think more people use more vague expressions such as あの日, that day. Or they might just say あれ, that.
実は今日結構危険だったんだよね。何が？いやだからあれが。
She's using あれ, that. But the other girls are also using あれ to mean a different thing.
かといってあれを使うのもね。
Here, I think she's talking about tampons because they can be more intimidating than pads. I also remember this scene from Evangelion.
軌道指数ギリギリです。
ひどいものね。昨日よりさらに落ちてるじゃない。
アスカ、今日調子悪いのよ。2日目だし。
Interestingly, the subtitles just directly say that she is on her period. But that's not what she said. The original line just says that Asuka is on her second day. And in my early teens, I wasn't quite sure if I fully understood what it meant. But I think her indirect expression made this scene somewhat memorable. So nuances are sometimes important in an anime. But it just seems there's so many euphemisms for menstruation in every language. So let's move on to the next one. Nuku, to pour, to take out, to empty. Can you guys guess what it means in a sexual context? It actually means to masturbate, but for guys only. Because the concept is to take out milk from your penis. Now you know. I like how this word is very visual. You can say, シンジはアスカで抜いた. Shinji emptied it with Asuka. There's just so many expressions like this, so I should stop here. But it's especially important to use euphemisms in Japanese because we tend to say things in indirect ways. But if you want to subtly talk about sexual things in Japanese, you need to learn Japanese. And if you want to learn Japanese with me, I will teach you the kind of Japanese that real-life Japanese people today actually speak, which can be different from the kind of Japanese that textbooks and apps teach you because they can be unnatural and outdated. So click the link and subscribe to my email group, Japanese with Yuta. Alright, see you guys soon. Ciao, ciao!